Hi, I'm Heidi Mulligan Walker, owner of The Parenting Difference. I'm a family connection coach, and I really love helping families to connect and thrive using the skills taught in Dr. Thomas Gordon's Parent Effectiveness Training course. If you don't already have a copy, a fantastic accompaniment to these videos will be getting a copy of the Parent Effectiveness Training book, The Proven Program for Raising Responsible Children, written by Dr. Thomas Gordon. You can get a copy on Amazon. I believe it's about $11, or also directly from the Gordon Training website, gordontraining.com. And if you're not able to take one of the parent effectiveness training classes or one of the workshops that I run, just having a copy of this book and reading through it as well as watching these videos will really help you to put the parent communication skills to use that Dr. Thomas Gordon developed over 50 years ago. So welcome to the 2014 video series. Today's video was the winner in my Facebook contest to ask out of 3 topics, which one did people want to see me film a video on and talk about? And overwhelmingly, the answer was how to move from using punishment and reward to problem solving. And I hear you. I know exactly why so many parents out there want to make that move. My husband and I were also stuck in a cycle of using punishment and reward a number of years ago, and I'm very proud to say that since finding parent effectiveness training over 3 years ago, we have not used punishment and reward within our family, and it really has changed our family dynamic immensely, and I wish the same for all of you. So thank you so much for watching, and let's go ahead and get started. So when do we first get into a cycle? When do we start that cycle of using punishment and reward? It happens really innocently. And I have done a lot of thinking about it and also a lot of talking to parents at various stages in their parenting journey. And I've noticed that we start the cycle around the time that our children are 2. And the reason for this is that our children around the age of 2 are starting to communicate with us in many different ways. Prior to that, they really didn't have the voice, they really couldn't move, they couldn't not come to us. We could only really go to them. And around the stage of 2, they start to really exert their willpower on us. And actually what happens is at that stage, they actually start making it harder for us to meet our needs. And that's when we get into a bit of a power struggle. And interestingly enough, before the age of 2, we use a skill called active listening with our children extremely intuitively. And active listening is another one of the major skills that Dr. Thomas Gordon talks about in the Parent Effectiveness Training book, and that we work on developing or redeveloping with parents in the Parent Effectiveness Training course and workshops. Because when children are babies, we are intuitively great at using active listening. Just think about it. The baby starts to cry and we ask, oh, what's wrong? Do you need your nappy changed? Are you tired? Oh, you're bored sitting there. And we know intuitively that our baby is communicating a need to us. And one of the central premises of Dr. Thomas Gordon's Parent Effectiveness Training is that all of our behavior comes from a desire to meet our needs. So if you can think, every behavior equals an unmet need that a child or even an adult is trying to meet, right away you go into more of a problem-solving mode. And right away you are more empathetic with the other person. So just think about that as we talk about it today. Problem solving versus using punishment and reward will help you to get to the underlying unmet need that your child is having or another person is having, and therefore any solution that you put into place is going to be more effective. Punishment and reward do not get to the underlying need, and that is why we find ourselves in a vicious cycle. The other problem with punishment and reward is that when it works, fine, almost instant gratification. Parent feels like they've won because they laid down the law and the child listened to them and they got the change in the behavior that they wanted, or that they got the stop in the behavior that they didn't want anymore, and everyone goes on happily. The problem is that it rarely stops there. It's rare that we only ever need to use punishment and reward once. Because if it worked, we really would only need to use punishment and reward once. And and we all know that it's rare that that's the case. What happens is that because the child's unmet need remained unmet, they go back to doing the behavior, and we haven't really solved anything. And we get ourselves into a situation where the punishment then needs to escalate. If it hasn't worked the first time, then we try something more severe the second time. So say you throw away the tool, you take away a toy the first time, then the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth time, you start throwing away the toy. Or say a reward. Okay, you start with trying a 2-year-old with some potty training, and you try some M&Ms, and then say the M&Ms don't work. Well, then next thing you know, it's a doll, or it's some stickers, or it's a book, or going to bed. Okay, we'll read one book. One book doesn't work. Okay, 2 books, 3 books. Time out. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And so punishment and reward end up escalating in order to get the behavior change that we want. Because ultimately, the child is in the driving seat and is going to be the one who determines whether or not the punishment is bad enough or the reward is good enough. Hence why we find ourselves in the vicious cycle. So today we're talking about how we can actually break that by using problem solving. Firstly, I, whenever I'm doing the P.E.T class, I love to draw a picture of a present with a big bow on it, because I really feel that problem solving is a gift that we can give ourselves a lot more of the time. And what's most important is that we give ourselves this gift when it's not the heat of the moment, so that we actually set some time aside to do problem solving within our family. And I have done it in my family one-on-one with each child, depending on what the situation is, and sometimes we do it actually as a group, again, depending on what the situation is. So using problem solving when it's not the heat of the moment, when everyone's emotions are balanced, is an extremely part of actually problem solving success. Secondly, is to actually prepare your child for making this change from the use of punishment and reward. Because our children will become very used to the punishment and reward scenario. I think when a child is between the ages of 2 and 4, you can really just kind of do some problem solving quite easily with them by getting more in tune with what is that unmet need. It's usually not that complicated, and they're also not that verbal yet to actually be able to explain in huge detail. But really from the age, depending on each child, they're different. From 3, 4, 5 years old, they really are becoming more verbal and really can start to tell you more about what's going on. And going back to your skill of active listening. Again, get a copy of the Parent Effectiveness Training book, where we talk a lot about active listening if you're not able to take one of the courses or workshops. And I'll do a future video on it as well, but that really is the most important skill. So going back to preparing your child for the discussion. I'm using my personal example here because we actually did this with my son Cole, who's now 9, when he was 6 years old. And we were really in that vicious cycle of using punishment and reward, and we really wanted to break it. And I said to Cole, and we had a discussion one afternoon, and I let him know, Cole, we're really going to be trying something new. Mom and Dad don't want to be using punishment and reward anymore. We're a family, and in families we help each other. So I'm going to help you meet your needs, and I need you to help me meet mine as well. And that's what we do in families. So we don't want to be using punishment and reward anymore. What we want to do is we want to use problem solving. And I took him through the 6 steps that we'll go through in just a moment and told him how it would work. The funny thing was, right away, in that moment, we started problem solving with the situation that we were dealing with. He was ready to start. And the situation at the time was actually him not coming home on time when we lived in a big apartment block in Beijing, and he had pretty much free run of the place, but sometimes we didn't know where he was, and he didn't come home at the time that we said. And right away, we just went right with it, and we started some problem solving. And the funny thing was, at the end of it, he asked, at the end, and this is just the discussion to tell him we want to try something new, at the end he said, Mom, what will happen if I don't come home on time? So he was checking. He wanted to check, are we still going to go back to using punishment and reward? And I said, no, we're not going to use punishment and reward anymore, Cole. We're done with that. Mom and Dad don't like using it, and we get upset, we get angry, and it's not working for our family. We want to respect each other, and we want to help each other. So again, we'll help you meet your needs, and we want you to help us meet ours. So if it doesn't work, we'll do another problem solving session around it. So, oh, okay, and he sort of was just checking in. So it really is very important to have that discussion with children when they're a little bit older, 4, 5, 6 and beyond, to let them know you're trying something different. And that's the most important step that you can take when starting to use problem solving instead of punishment and reward. The next step, and there's 6 steps to effective problem solving, is that what you really want to do, and this is what you miss with punishment and reward, you miss really defining what the unmet need is, which is why the behavior often continues. So you're going to use your active listening to really get behind what is really going on for the child. And this is where the beauty of problem solving lies, because you connect with your child in such a different way that you completely miss out on when you just throw out a punishment or you just, give a reward. You miss out on really connecting with them and finding out more about them. So this is where problem solving really can help the relationship to grow and really strengthen the relationship and the communication within your family. So defining the needs to find out what really is going on. And this can sometimes take the most amount of time. Then what you do is you brainstorm the solutions. Don't evaluate any solutions. Allow every single solution to get out there on the table, no matter how wild it is. My daughter the other day came up with one of her brainstorming was she wanted to be homeschooled. I didn't evaluate it in the moment, but that wasn't going to be one that worked for us when we got to the next stage, which was evaluating the solutions. What I find works really well when doing this is that you brainstorm the solutions, get everything out there, even the wildest ideas. Don't make any judgments about them. When it comes time to evaluate the solutions, let the children know we're looking for a solution that we can both be happy with. And what I'll often do is I'll use a whiteboard or a big piece of paper and I draw smiley faces on each solution. One for me if I'm happy with it, a sad face if I'm not happy with it, and I let the child do the same. And we then look at the end and we evaluate and we say which one has 2 smiley faces? Which ones are the ones that we're both happy with that we can possibly use? And that is a really great way to work with it with younger children as well. So letting them know that we want to find something that we both can be happy with, and then choosing a solution or 2. And then implementing it, which often can be sometimes the easiest or the hardest part, remembering to implement it. The kids are pretty good at reminding us if we forget. And then most importantly, use an example from work here, checking in on the results. If you do a meeting at work in order to solve a problem, you don't just leave it there. You check back in. You schedule another meeting a week or 2, maybe a month later. How's it going? Are the new solutions working? And that is what's most important with problem solving. Often it's the step that we miss, but it's most important to check in and see, okay, do we need to tweak something? We're talking about a new homework routine. How did it work for you? Did it work for us? What do we need to tweak to make it work better? Whatever the case might be. Did we all live up to what we actually said we would do, or was it too hard? My sister just recently did a fantastic problem-solving session with her boys, and one of the solutions that they came up with to stop her from yelling when the house wasn't as tidy as she wanted it to be and she needed the boys' help, the boys came up with a fabulous idea, which was to have a mantra, which was defend our house. And now all she needs to say is defend our house, and the boys know, okay, it's time to do some tidying up. And it's a much more peaceful situation. Well, she never could have come up with that idea on her own, and she really would have missed an opportunity to connect with her boys had she just punished them and said, okay, no iPad, no video games, no whatever, tonight, because she was upset at the situation. So using problem solving instead of punishment and reward is an amazing way to actually get the change in behavior that we want, be able to help our children and ourselves meet our unmet needs, and also strengthen our relationships. Not to mention, it's an amazing way of really modeling for our children how to actually solve problems that they will take with them into adulthood, out into the world, into their own parenting. So I really wish you all the best with moving from punishment and reward to using problem solving. Again, getting a copy of the Parent Effectiveness Training book, or also if you're able to come to my February 8th workshop, we'll be covering the topic in a lot more depth and actually get a chance to get some practice using active listening and role-playing a problem-solving scenario. So February 8th here in Cary Park from 1 to 4 p.m. You can take a look on my Facebook page, The Parenting Difference, to get more information, or email me at heidi.m.walker@gmail.com, or take a look at my website, www.thedifference.uk.com. Happy New Year, and I really wish you and your family all the best with putting problem solving into place and breaking the cycle of punishment and reward. Take care.